Outstanding, the ultimate accolade for teachers. We challenge secondary maths teacher Lisa Essop to go from good to outstanding. A top inspector observes one lesson. 2 experts will fine-tune her practice and improve her presentation. Lisa then has 3 weeks to put the advice into action before the inspector comes back for the final verdict.
She wasn't quite as scary as I expected her to be. She's actually... No, I can't say that. No, I can't say she's a pussycat.
Valentine's High School is a large comprehensive in Essex. Lisa Essop is a secondary maths teacher in her 5th year of teaching.
When it comes to maths, I really like the problem-solving side to it. And when you're confronted with a challenge, you're kind of competing with other people.
The maths department rates her teaching as good.
Primarily with Lisa, she's just such a fun-loving person. And that then is enthused into a positive working atmosphere.
Lisa will focus the challenge of getting to outstanding on her Year 7s.
Someone tell me about C.
An isosceles triangle?
That is perfect. My Year 7 group are a very lively bunch. There's some lovely characters in there that really bring a nice atmosphere to the classroom. Go on then, tell me about football.
Sometimes she lets us shout out the answers and stuff. She's like one of the best teachers in the school. Like everyone likes her.
Very nice. The challenges that I've always struggled with is differentiation. To be honest, I feel that I've never really learnt how to differentiate effectively.
Lisa's quite willing to experiment and try new things. She'll take advice on board and she'll act on it.
It would be really nice for me if I was to be graded as being outstanding. And obviously for the kids, because then they've got a teacher who, you know, can bring out the best in them. Lots of things that I need to do this evening. I need to get my resources and I've got a lot of cutting to do. Voila!
With hundreds of inspections under her belt, School Inspector Claire Gillies leads teams up and down the country. She certainly knows an outstanding lesson when she sees one.
Okay, Year 7. To start off with, there's some triangles stuck on your table.
Lisa has 60 minutes to impress our inspector.
I want you to measure the angles of each of those vertices on the triangle, and I want you to fill in the grid for me. Before you do that, as you can notice, some of them are kind of skewed a little bit, so I don't mind you. You can move around the table. You need to work as a group.
This is acute, yeah, so we know it should be 490.
Yeah, it's true.
So this is 10 degrees.
Number 2 is 10 degrees.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
60 in the inside. It's 69. Remember, outside we
69. No, it's not 69.
68.
We were measuring angles and it was fun because we got to interact with our group and we used a lot of cooperation.
That's the general gist of it. All triangles should add up to 180 degrees, yeah. Okay, let's write down our lesson objective. To be able to find missing angles on a straight line, at a point, and in a triangle. So, I've got a triangle, and you've seen this before, haven't you? My phone microphone. I have my big triangle. And I want to try and use this triangle to help me to prove that angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. Has anyone got any ideas? And I need to get the mic on you. Gary.
I think it does add up to 180 degrees because it only goes halfway around the circle, and that's...
Okay, good point, but I still need some knowledge on how I'm going to use this big triangle. You can do anything you want with it, and you need to try and prove that fact.
I can prove that it's 180 degrees because that's a triangle and all angles on a triangle add up to 180.
Not quite. Right, I'm going to show you. Watch.
It was quite confusing, like how she ripped up the paper and stuck it to the whiteboard. Like she kind of like just told us, but then moved on to the next thing.
Okay, let's move on then. And I want you to try and get some answers for these missing angles for me. Okay.
That's like a right angle.
Excellent.
So do we do 51, take away 90 degrees to give us that answer?
Take away 90 degrees.
To work
What
out
angle fact do you think you're going to use there?
180,
Excellent. So if the whole thing adds up to 180, you know that that is
90 degrees.
90. So if you add those together,
Find out the answer.
and then subtract from 180, you'll get your C, won't you? Yeah? Yes. You're all stuck on E. Right, I'm going to show you the trick. Okay, can you stop what you're doing, please? Right, I'm just going to focus on E very quickly. In fact, I'll use this green paper. If we look at E, I want you to focus on just this one section. What does that look like? What angle fact? Eva?
180.
Good. So what will E be then if that's 180? Joseph?
50 degrees.
50 degrees. And then I can move that line around. So if that's 50, what will F be? If E is 50, what will F be? Renee?
130.
Excellent, well done. Stand up, because I'm going to try and catch you out. Okay, angle B is 108 degrees. True or false? The answer is true. If you're false, can you sit down, please? Eunice, you were false.
True and false bit, that was a really good exercise. You had to think about what side you put it on, because some people were like putting up their false sign, but it was actually in the true sign because they wasn't looking.
An eighth of a turn is 45 degrees. True or false? Answer is true. You are far too clever for me. I should have created harder ones.
So how did Lisa get on?
Lisa, thank you very much for letting me watch that lesson. I enjoyed it very much. And before we talk about the sort of content of the lesson, I do want to celebrate that you're giving this Year 7 group a real sense of fun in maths, that it's okay to make mistakes, that it's okay not quite to grasp something straight off. I want to ask you, standing back, how much you felt they learnt in that lesson.
I think individually there were students that understood all of the facts. Some of them, they'd understood it, but in terms of sewing it into the worksheet that I'd given them, they couldn't quite make the connection.
I think you've probably hit the nail on the head that I felt at that point in the lesson we probably needed to have slightly differentiated worksheets. There were definitely, as you say, a couple who really struggled, and there were a couple who I think could have sort of possibly flown a bit more. Yeah. So that was probably the ingredient, the one main ingredient that I felt meant it wasn't outstanding. And I wasn't quite clear whether we were just mastering calculating missing angles or trying to underpin that a bit more with the proving of why. Because we touched on that with the tearing the triangle and didn't really explore the explanation as much as I was expecting when we got onto that in the sort of middle of the lesson, wasn't it? But let's forget the sense of fun, enjoyment, with the triangle stuck on the tables, the phone microphone, the true, false. It was great. So thank you very much again for letting me share that lesson.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
With the first observation over, the inspector highlighted Lisa's need to work hard on the differentiation and to make the lesson structure stay focused on her learning objective. It's time to bring on the experts. To boost Lisa's progress, help comes from presentation and communications coach Mo Shapiro and secondary maths expert John Wilkinson. They start by watching Lisa's lesson.
To start off with, there's some triangles stuck on your table.
I thought she was great. She had a lot of energy. She gives out a lot to the class, which I think is excellent.
Before you do that,
I felt that the instruction she gave were a little bit confused.
good point.
I think she gets a bit tense sometimes and her voice tends to go up a little bit squeaky.
Okay, we need to move on. Let's write down our lesson objective.
For me, the learning objectives needed to be at the start. The structure of the lesson needs to be made clear far earlier. If we can start then on the structure of the lesson, which to me is key, it sets the tone of the whole lesson. I think your lesson objectives came in somewhere after about 17 or 18 minutes, and I would like to see those up as the children arrive. It will engage the students, it gives them something to focus on.
I think in terms of me putting the lesson objective up, I wanted to start them in almost like they didn't know what they were doing. You want them to kind of investigate.
I like the investigative approach. I think it's good, I think it's interesting, and I think it gives the lesson ownership. However, because of the breadth of experience in that class, I think you needed to have a focus.
Okay.
And I think it's something you can refer back to. In that respect, the starter to your lesson was, for me, slightly long. A very simple starter might be to use an interactive protractor on the board.
Yeah.
You've got the whiteboard.
Okay.
I move this. Tell me the angle, please. B, C, D.
Okay, so they're just writing down the angle. Okay.
Immediately, you can assess as to whether that child can read a protractor. What I was particularly pleased about is that you tried to offer a proof. However, my concern is that the group that you had, their range of ability was quite expansive. 2/3 were left actually slightly mesmerised as a magic trick. And what I'd like to offer here are 3 other proofs that would probably pull in more of the students than you did. The first one, okay, is quite simple. We've got 3 congruent triangles. We identify the angles and then we just rearrange them, and the students will soon see that those 3 angles will give you the 180 degrees just by rearranging them. Another variation on the theme is simply to fold the 3 angles in. And it becomes very, very clear that again our 3 angles have given us 180 degrees. And because of the differentiated nature of that set, the abilities in there are some children that you can extend with this, and the children will soon associate alternate angles, Z angles, S angles, and enable you to identify these other 2 angles as being the internal angles of the triangle, again giving you the 3 that make up 180 degrees. I think having these available, along with the tearing up of the triangle method and placing on a line, one of these will appeal to one of those students in that class. The plenary to me is a key part of any lesson, and I was really pleased to see that you'd gone to the effort of making it an integral part of your lesson. I had one reservation about your plenary, and that was the child who got the question false on the second occasion and then was sat down. Now, how much more did they take part in the plenary once they'd sat down?
Okay.
So I offer you a game of dominoes.
Okay.
These are looped domino cards.
Yeah.
You can start with any card you like. The answer to that is on one of the other cards. The beauty of these is that, again, they can be differentiated. This set here is a lot easier than the set there. But I think it's a wonderful activity as a plenary to pull the whole lesson together.
Good point. Do anything you want with it.
That's okay, we're all going to have a group view. Should we try it?
Communications coach Mo Shapiro begins with some exercises to get Lisa's voice warmed up.
So we could go that's moving your lips then. Now let's say it, having warmed everything up.
Okay, Year 7, if you could stop what you are doing, please.
And nobody would dare do otherwise.
I want you to measure the angles of each of those vertices on the triangle, and I want you to fill in the grid for me.
I just wanted to think about the instructions and the way that you give them.
Does that make sense? Before you do that,
Okay, so I'd like you to pick up the chair and I'd like you to just move it over to that corner of the room there, please. Oh, but before you do that, could you just move it over a little bit over? No, actually, before you do, could you just bring it a bit further here? No, could you just put it over there?
I'm getting the gist of it.
Okay, so tell me what the gist is.
To keep offloading instructions kind of on top of other ones, it gets confusing.
Absolutely. And so it just felt for me like Am I looking at the paper? Am I thinking about angles or am I thinking about the shapes? So work with that. You might go, triangles. Ooh, different shaped triangles. Today, da-da-da-da.
On your table, there are some triangles, different colours, different shapes. I would like you to measure the angles, and you have a grid on your table in which you need to record those angles.
Great. As I say, you make these lessons, you really do make it fun. It's that big opening, if you like. It's the start of the show. Sock it to them. Okay, Lisa, just thinking about how you position yourself when you're using your whiteboard. And immediately I notice, and I'm sure you're aware of the fact, that there's a little table over here that's getting a wonderful view of your back. And I want to actually ask you to pretend that everybody in the class can go to the ball. And I want the words, you shall all go to the ball.
You shall all go to the ball.
Okay, so now, using the whiteboard, using the pen, let's now do it with oomph. Because you're going to let them go to the ball. They can all do these questions. How fantastic is that?
Okay. Okay, Year 7, I would like all of you to think, please, how could I prove that angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees?
Okay, I want you to do it again, this time with feeling, with action, so that you can see the whites of all their eyes as you go round.
Okay, Year 7, I would like all of you to try and prove how angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees.
Great. Wasn't that fabulous? Can you see the difference?
With her final observation just weeks away, Lisa's back to the classroom to put all the advice into action and work towards raising her game.
We start off, please, by you writing down the lesson objective to understand and calculate alternate angles, corresponding angles and supplementary angles. Going to start then, please. Can you get your mini whiteboards and your pens? I'm going to show you some angles on the whiteboard, and I'd like you to try and estimate the value of the angle. Nice and big as well. I want your writing nice and big. Okay, boards up then, please. Let's have a little look. I thought the interactive whiteboard with the protractor went quite well. Can someone tell me straight away, why is this not correct? It's kind of a good opportunity for me to take out mistakes, explain them.
Did she measure the bit that looks like a triangle?
She measured the other side, didn't she? Pritpal, if you could come up for me. What should he do? Come on, give him some suggestions.
Try and rotate it a little bit to the right.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Pritpal. Okay, we are going to play angle dominoes. If you do find it easy, I'm going to give you green. If you don't find it so easy, you're going to get red. Easy? All right, you're going with the easy side. I'm not sure whether me allowing them to pick themselves was the best idea.
Easy.
I think, Gary, you should go for difficult. I think next time I'm going to make sure that I know exactly who's getting the difficult ones and who's getting the easy ones. What we're going to do, we're going to pick this up next lesson. I tried to make everyone feel included. I didn't make it obvious, waving a wand.
To get more advice on moving to outstanding, Lisa reflects on last week's observation with fellow maths teacher Erifana.
E is 50. What will F be? Renee?
I noticed the kids were just really keen and eager to take part. There were lots and lots of hands going up. I just wonder though, do you not think there might be a case for, in some lessons, just have an entire lesson where you say, right, today guys, it's going to be no hands, just to assess their understanding. I want you all thinking, because I could be asking any one of you.
In terms of seating plan, have you tried putting the top people on one group and the bottom people on another? How does that work? Because I've never really done that before.
Okay. On occasions, I will group them on their own on a table, but it's usually when I know I've definitely got an LSA in the classroom that will also be on hand to either assist that group or to go and work with another group or the rest of the class where I can spend a bit of one-to-one with that particular group and aid them.
I'm starting a new topic on coordinates and graphs and lines, and I'm differentiating today a bit more obviously. So I'm setting the tables in terms of ability, and I've made a little no hands hat. So I'm going to be wearing this. Do you think that looks rude?
Alicia, Hamza, Jadara, Eunice and Aliza. Have a go in your group, please. Let's get going, let's find the treasure.
1 times 3 is 3. So 5, 3.
5 3.
18 divided by 2, 9.
25 divided by 5 would be 5, 25 divided by 5. So 5 and there is. The square root of 9 is that 3?
I think it's better to have someone with the same ability on your table, so you know that there is other people out there with who's working at your level.
I want hands down, please. Hands down. I've got my no hands hat on. What's the equation of that line? I'm going to ask Jadara.
Why? And I think it's a really good rule, so Miss can motivate them to try harder.
Be nice if you carried that on, Jadara.
And y equals -1.
Lovely.
Good afternoon.
Lisa talks through her plans with maths expert John Wilkinson before tomorrow's final observation.
Then I'm going to have the picture starter that I had, but kind of as part of the main, so that they get a discussion going about what the topic of the lesson's going to be.
Yeah, I understand what you're trying to do with it, but I think looking at the range of ability within that class, Lisa, that it might be wise to give them the lesson objective first.
Okay.
Were it a pure set 1, I can understand the investigative nature of it, but I think give them the objective first. It'll give the lesson a little bit of structure.
Okay, thank you very much for all your help. Do you think I'm going to be okay? Do you think it's going to go to outstanding?
Having seen what I've seen of your teaching, if you don't reach it tomorrow, I'm convinced you will reach it very, very quickly. You have the potential to be an outstanding teacher, yes.
It's the day of Lisa's final observation. Claire Gillies is back, and it's crunch time. With all that expert advice and weeks of practice behind her, can Lisa make it from good to outstanding?
Let's get started then. What I want you to do is to write down the equations of the lines that I'm going to show you. We did this yesterday, so it shouldn't be that tricky. Come on, have a think. Okay, let's have a look. Let's see who's got this right. Very well done. All this table, you need a sign in between that. Can you get your exercise books? We're just going to write down our lesson objective, what we're going to do today. So equations of lines, and our keywords are equation, intercept, which you've come across before, slope and steepness. Hamza, explain to me what the intercept of a line is so that everyone knows.
It means you go through different numbers. I can't explain it properly,
Right, I need someone to be nice and clear because it's really important that you know what intercept is in order to do this lesson. What is intercept?
You know when the lines cross over, that's where it meets is the intercept.
Right, I'm still not got a clear enough answer. I'm going to have one more go. Eva.
It's when the line goes through the y-axis.
You know what? That is perfect. Where the line goes through the y-axis. Well done. Very good.
Sometimes I forgot what interception means, but then she reminded us.
So the word for steepness or slope in maths is called gradient. Okay, I'm going to show you a line. The line is y equals 2x plus 2. Where do you think y equals 3x plus 2 will be? I'm going to ask Sam, so if you could come out and come around this way. Right, I'm going to hold that still. What is the intercept of that line? Terrell?
I think it's 3.
It is 3. Yes. Now, if I look at my equation, what's the intercept of the equation? The intercept, Eunice? 2. So the line that Sam showed me was incorrect. People are getting confused. The intercept is here. So does that line go through this point?
Yes.
Yes or no? I want everyone. Yes or no? I'm going to show you what it looks like. It's slightly steeper, okay? Now I want you to look at these numbers, please. The higher the number,
the steeper it is.
I'd like everyone to say this nice and loud.
The higher the number, the steeper the line.
We learnt the higher the number, the bigger the slope.
You all have a set of cards. You're going to match up the lines to the equation. So you're going to work in your pairs, please. Some have green, some have yellow, some have blue.
What's this for you? Ikram.
Essop's 2.
Let's have a look.
This one. There you go. That's them.
No, it's minus 2.
No, this is that one. We've all done it now. Wait, let's check.
This one. Look.
Right, so I'm going to ask you a few quick questions and then you can get going and enjoy your weekend. Very concisely, what does intercept mean? Violet.
Is it 2 lines that cross over?
It's not 2 lines, no.
I know.
Has to be concise. Remsha.
When the line crosses through the y-axis.
Well done. Where the line crosses through the y-axis. And I want you to finish off this off for me, and I want you to be fairly loud. The higher the number. Okay. Can we get crates away, please?
So has all Lisa's hard work paid off?
Lisa, thank you for letting me come and join that Year 7 again. And let me plunge in by saying that there were some really interesting and exciting features of the lesson. And so it was certainly good, but there were certain things that made it not outstanding this time. And I suppose it's looking back and thinking how many moved on in this afternoon's lesson, and probably not enough, because various stages they were finding quite difficult. But let's look at all those good features, which I'm sure you'll build on in the future. It's excellent to have that strong reminding of what we did in our last lesson. You had enormous fun when you got to the point of let's all shout out that statement, but actually that's so good. And maybe there were 1 or 2 other sentences that could have been shouted out, made fun to get it stuck in. You'd obviously thought about your resources very carefully. You'd got the interactive whiteboard, you'd got the 3 different levels of cards to match. Differentiation is never easy and never straightforward, is it?
No, I found it a real struggle.
So there were really lots of, you know, exciting things. It was great to be so ambitious, but I'm sure that when things flow better for you, that you will be delivering some outstanding lessons. So thank you again for letting me share the afternoon.
You're welcome. Even though I wasn't outstanding, I'm still going to view this as a good learning journey for me. The elements that I did find difficult, so differentiation was a very cloudy area for me, but it's become a lot more clear for me. So slightly disappointed, but there you go.